All right, let's get more on this right now, on the 2020 race. I want to bring in the panel for me right now. Emily Tisch Sussman, who is a Democratic strategist, and Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian. Thank you guys for being here. Okay, so let's start with that recent CNN poll. Beto, Biden, Sanders leading both among his Democratic rivals and in a matchup against Trump. So, Emily, are voters going to gravitate more to the candidate on their issues or more to who can win? Emily, right here with me.
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I think that's something that people are really grappling with across the board, that do they really want, there's so much that's out there, there's so many candidates that people like. They like a lot of candidates. I think that in this moment that we're in history, you know, people like to process things almost like opening a news feed every time. Yeah. There should be some new news, and they should have some direct emotional connection to them and not like anybody else. But that's actually really not the approach that most people are taking. They're saying, I like a lot of candidates, I want to see where they're going. And so they're kind of starting to see what issues are popping to the top for each candidate. What are they talking about the most, and are they talking about solutions that really connect with them? But people are still liking a lot of candidates in the race.
Well, there are a lot of candidates to like, 23 possibly by the end of all of this. Here's what Trump, in the meantime, is saying about who he could face in the general election.
I think that Biden seems to have a lead. I'd be very happy if it were Biden.
Happy
Sleepy
why?
Joe. I think he did a bad job. I'd be running against
So you think he's beatable?
I just don't think he'd be a very good candidate. I mean, we'll see what happens. I hope, you know, I wish him well. I'd like him to get it. I'd be happy. I'd be happy with Bernie. I personally think it's those two.
Amy, it does appear as if he's been obsessing a little bit about Biden.
Yes, no, you're correct on that. We have to remember, too, I mean, the president did a great job in the Rust Belt states. He's going to have to refocus on those areas in order to win his reelection, including other states like Arizona, New Mexico, and here in Nevada, I think are going to be very important. And then I think by going back to those Rust Belt states where the manufacturing jobs have increased dramatically under President Trump, that's going to be a win for him, where they were actually a huge loss under President Obama, which obviously Biden served as his vice president. So I think that could hurt Biden pretty good.
As you know, the best campaign video came out this week, and it was basically the House or the Senate Judiciary Committee grilling of Attorney General William Barr. A lot of those who are running for office were there on Capitol Hill. Take a look.
You look at the totality of the evidence. That's what I learned when I was in law school. You look at the totality of the evidence and the pattern here.
Using the president's own words, having it criticized by the Mueller himself. But the challenge we now have is that we are going into an area where you seem to not even be willing to be in the least bit critical in your summarizations.
As the Attorney General of the United States, you run the United States Department of Justice. If in any U.S. attorney's office around the country, the head of that office, when being asked to make a critical decision about, in this case, the person who holds the highest office in the land, and whether or not that person committed a crime, would you accept them recommending a charging decision to you if they had not reviewed the evidence?
Well, that's a question for Bob Mueller. He's the U.S. attorney. He's the one who presents the report.
But it was you who made the charging decision, sir.
Emily, how will those performances, because they really were performances, resonate with voters, you think?
Look, I think this reminds us of two things. One, there are great candidates on the Democratic side. And two, the president is deeply, deeply corrupt. And that spreads to everyone around his administration. So I just think it highlights the fact that there are so many good candidates and that the choice will be so stark. We do have to try to avoid on the Democratic side being too critical and tending towards eating our own. That can definitely start to happen. So I think when we see great clips like this of a number of candidates doing really, really well, it's just a good reminder that there's great candidates.
And picking up on that, Amy, in the meantime, while there are some great candidates that are out there, according to Emily, what about their messaging? How tough will it be for the Democrats with the economy right now, the unemployment rate at the lowest in 49 years? How tough will it be?
Well, I think it'll be extremely tough. Historically, we see that people do tend to vote with their pocketbook. However, the Democrats may have a way to find their way in with a little bit of wiggle room, because there are some soft Republicans and independents who maybe still aren't so pleased with the president's personality. They might like his policies, but maybe they're just not comfortable enough with his personality. So they might look to somebody like Joe Biden, who's known for being more of a chummy guy that you're going to go and have a beer with. You know, unfortunately, somebody like Kamala Harris, who's an attorney herself and served as AG in California, she's being disingenuous when she's actually attacking Attorney General Barr for not reading all of those other underlying reports. You know, he basically took Mueller's findings as fact, followed the law, and so now we're here with Congress possibly putting him, holding him in contempt and issuing subpoenas. And this is a very difficult situation to put the public in. We've seen in the past with Clinton that when you had a Republican ran Congress, when this happened, Republicans are voted out of office the next election. So Democrats should be very careful with their move here.
I would just like to push back for a moment on the presumption of the idea that people like Trump's policies and have benefited under Trump's policies. Really, only about 12% of the public thinks they've actually benefited greatly from under Trump's policies, economic policies, and less than a majority thinks they've benefited at all. So even if they were initially attracted to him and what they thought were policies, it's everything from trade policy, it's from tariff, it's from immigration. People are, and healthcare was the big driving issue in the midterms, and Trump has done nothing to bring down the cost of healthcare or to bring down the cost of drug pricing. So I think on the economic issues, people are really seeing a very stark contrast.
And let's be honest, we're more than 500 days away. There could be a turn or an adjustment in the economy. We're going to leave it there. Emily Tisch Sussman, our thanks to you. And Amy Tarkanian, thank you.